Hey, I'm Deidre Detterman, host of the Do It My Way podcast, where we empower women business owners and CEOs to do business on their terms with no regrets, hesitation, or fear. I'm obsessed with all things marketing. I started my career in television, and I remember sitting in countless meetings, listening to executives talk about things that needed to change, but they never did. I was always thinking, what if we did it my way? Once I became an entrepreneur and I started living life on my terms, working the hours I want to work, making the money I want to make, I started to feel success. I was finally in control of my destiny. I hope you will join me on this journey discovering how you can do it your way. Welcome to another episode of the Do It My Way podcast. Today's guest is Hannah Arnaud. She is the owner and editor of the Scout Guide, this beautiful magazine here. She is a mom of 3 kids under the age of 4. She is balancing it all, and you're going to learn so much from her. Welcome to the Do It My Way podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Well, I'm excited to have you here. You know, I'm so inspired by everything that you've done with building this community of local businesses around the Scout Guide. So I can't wait for you to share kind of how that all came about, you know, with our audience today. So.
Awesome. Well, me too. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay, so tell me, you grew up in Kansas City, right?
I did, yes.
Now, how did you go from Kansas City to Oklahoma State, which, you know, I'm a big Cowboy.
Yes, I know. Go Pokes. I know. So it was honestly super random. I was, you know, I'm a firstborn child. I wanted to do something different and go out of state. And I actually had paid my deposit to TCU. I was planning on going to TCU. It was just totally different. All my friends were going in state. And we had some family friends who went to OSU, and they were like, just stop on the way. You know, just stop by Stillwater. It's a great town. And we literally, my mom and I drove through it on the way back, and I said, this is where I'm going to college. And, you know, I'm a religious person, so I just was like, God is calling me here. This is where I'm supposed to be. I have literally no reason, and I still have no really good reason, but I love it so much. And my mom was like, Stillwater? I mean, I was like wanting to move to the big city, and my mom's like, Stillwater, Oklahoma. Okay. But it was truly, the most amazing 4 years, the most amazing people, so many lifelong friends. And then my brother went there 2 years later, followed me there. So it was just truly meant to be. It's one of those things where you look back and you're like, it just was supposed to happen that way. But
now, did you meet your husband there?
So I was not at OSU, but I was in college. We actually interned at Williams together before my senior year. And so I always joke that that's like the best thing I got from my internship was my husband. So we met then, and that's a long story. We were long distance for a long time. But so it's kind of always funny. You look back at your life and you're like, if I would have just taken a different path, I wouldn't have met my husband. I wouldn't have done this. I wouldn't be in Tulsa. So it is just funny to look at it like that.
Yes.
But so that's kind of what brought me to Oklahoma.
That's exciting.
Originally.
I love that.
Yes.
So tell me your time at OSU, and you studied finance, right?
I
finance
did,
and management, which is not necessarily what you're doing today. But
no.
I say that, but as a business owner,
it's nice to know your numbers, right? But I honestly, when I was, you're 18, you're going to college, you're like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. And at the time, I'm kind of a dreamer still, so it was like, I want to do this and this and this, and so I thought, okay, Hannah, if you don't know what you want to do, business is a great option. You'll always be able to find a job. You'll always be able to have options, and finance is, very just something that I was like, okay, I'm always going to be able to find something in this. And so I just picked that from early on and was like, this is what I'm going to do. I probably will end up doing a bunch of things, which I have. But that was just kind of my reasoning behind it. And, again, like you said, it's funny. I haven't ever worked in like true corporate finance, but as a business owner, definitely understanding finance and accounting and is very important. So it really, everything comes full circle. But yes, it was kind of on a whim, just like, this will be a good path forward type of decision.
So tell me something like your time at OSU that you think has carried over into your success today, whether it was learning finance or even networking. Like, what is something you can take from college and apply to what you're doing today? Yeah,
well, it's funny. This is not probably the right answer for it, but it's like you really don't learn things necessarily in the classroom always as much as you learn from your out of classroom opportunities, as you know. So I was actually in a sorority at OSU. I was a Pi Phi, and I ended up being president my senior year. And truly to this day, that is one of the most like pivotal experiences that I've ever had. I think just being in that type of a leadership role at really a very young age, and really working with so many women, but also, women that are also older than you, because you kind of have your advisors and you have people that are working with you on that end. And then obviously you're over all of these college girls. And I think that was just such a great experience for me even today of like being a leader, rising to the occasion. Also just dealing with all different types of people and different personalities and different situations, which is, as you know, as a business owner, very much of your day to day. So I think that was actually, looking back, still one of my most, pivotal experiences in even what I do today.
I mean, putting that on a resume that you were that age, you were, president of your sorority, and how many people were in the house? You had like 100 per plex class?
We had over 200 people definitely in the sorority.
Right.
So yes,
so
and now it's grown even more since then. Yes, exactly. Age. I know you look back, you're like, how did they let me? How did they trust me with that? But yeah, I do think that has just been such a great experience. And to your point, I think that's one thing I encourage college students to think about. Like, I know sometimes you're so focused on your grades, which obviously are important, but after a certain point, like nobody really cares what your GPA is. They more are looking to what experiences have you had? What leadership roles have you been in? Whether it's in a job or in the classroom or out of the classroom, like what leadership roles have you taken on? And I think for sure I got job opportunities out of college and even down the road because of my position in Pi-Fi, for sure.
Definitely.
So I do think those experiences are really important and make you grow in a way that is just different than like academics, even though those are important. But
no, it's so true.
I think
I tell my kids that all the time. I'm like, look around in your classes, because these are people you're going to be doing business with someday.
100%.
They're going to own businesses and maybe hire you.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Networking is such an important part of college. You've got the academics, which is great. You're learning, but really, I say it's networking and internships.
It's, totally, right? 100%. Just getting out there and figuring out. And I mean, 100%. And sometimes it's also figuring out what you don't like. I mean, I think I could have done that role and been like, I hate being a leader. I don't want to be in this position. And that would have been just as valuable. So sometimes I always tell people with internships or extracurriculars, like, just try it. And if you don't like it, that's just as helpful to know, like, this is not what I want to do.
Right.
Because I had a corporate internship and I realized I don't think this is the right world for me. But it's the perfect world for my husband and a lot of people. So I do think that is really important to just try things especially at that age,
Definitely. So let's dive into that corporate, because I had this discussion with a couple of our interns the other day.
Yes.
Like a big corporation, you go, and I did that as well. Like out of college, I worked for one of the biggest advertising agencies. No one knew my name except for the few people that I worked around, right? The boss, definitely, the owner, did not know my name.
Yes.
There were hundreds and hundreds of people, and
totally.
I had my degree and worked in the media department, and they said, okay, this is what we're going to have you do. And they go set me down, and I'm the front desk.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, wait, I have a degree. Did you see my resume?
Yes.
And it didn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
I'm starting at the bottom, and it was great. It was what I needed to learn.
Yes.
And
it's humbling.
Right.
You're like, okay,
humbling.
Everyone has to start somewhere, right?
Right. But you look at that big corporation where you're not going to get huge opportunities till later.
Yeah.
You're going to put your time in. We're a small agency. You're a small business.
Yes.
You're interns. You're jumping in.
Yes.
You've got this client.
Yes, I know.
I'm going to have you work on this.
Totally.
So it's that's
what
the
I tell
difference
people.
I see.
Yeah, I'm like, it's kind of, everyone has a all hands on deck approach, which I'm sure your staff is all like that. It's like your team is just kind of like, whatever we need to do, we jump in and do it. It's not necessarily like a perfect job description, which in the corporate world, it can be very different. Like you kind of do your job and that's it. And so it is very, very different. But I think there's a level of excitement with that for someone like me, I'm an Enneagram 7. So for someone like me, like they love that every day is different. Like my husband's days are so always the same, which is perfect for his personality. But I'm like, that's not me. And that, I don't want every day to be the same. It's kind of fun to be like, what am I going to have to do today?
Right.
Like, who knows? It could be anything. So I think that's kind of the fun part about, owning your own business or doing your own thing.
Now, did you study, or was your internship finance?
So it wasn't. So in Williams at the time, you kind of were either a business intern or an engineering intern. Okay. And then there was a bunch of different jobs. Right. So I was kind of actually more on this, I would say more of the sales side and like business development, which was actually the job was actually really fun and I did love it. And it was a great summer. But again, I was just like, I just can't see myself doing this like 9 to 5 every day, sitting in a cubicle. Like it just wasn't me.
Yes.
But I do think that like I said, it was a great experience. And there's obviously people who love that. And that's exactly what they want. And like that, that every day is very similar and that they kind of have a little bit more to depend on, right? I mean, being an entrepreneur, you really can't ever depend on anything. So I think it is definitely, there's pros and cons, obviously.
Yes. Definitely stability with corporate America. You're getting that
very stable
every 2 weeks.
Oh, 100%.
Benefits, all the things that come with
which
that.
Which is hard to say bye to that, right? It's hard to let that go for sure.
Definitely. Okay, so let's talk about Teach for America.
So you went,
was it right out of college with Teach for America?
Yeah, so I actually heard about Teach for America. I was probably in middle or high school, and I heard about it, and I just was like, that is what I want to do. And I pretty much had my sights set on that from that point. So all through high school, all through college, I was like, that's what I'm doing when I graduate. And it's funny, like I actually got an offer from Williams at the end of my summer, and I hadn't gone through the Teach for America process yet. And, there's not a great acceptance. It's a very low acceptance rate for Teach for America. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to say no to my Williams offer, and I am going to go through the Teach for America process. And my dean at the time was literally like, you are dumb. Like, why would you say no to this amazing, cushy offer?
Everyone wants that offer.
Yeah. Like, why would you do that and go be a teacher? Like, are you kidding me? And I was like, this is something that I really want to do. And I think that if I put my mind to it, I can do it. And I think it's, obviously, I know you feel this way, but your whole life, you kind of, it's just the importance of goals. It's like my mind had been set on that for so long. I was like, no matter what, like that's what my eye is on the prize.
Right, exactly.
And so I was like, I think that's exactly, I'm just going to go for it. And if I don't get it, I'll figure something else out. Yeah. But I'm going to put all my eggs in the basket. And so I applied and I did get in, and I went to Dallas right after college. So that was where you kind of get placed in a city. So I got placed in Dallas. I taught high school math,
oh my
which
goodness.
is like so funny. I'm like 22 with all these high schoolers. But, that was just I could talk about Teach for America this whole conversation, obviously, but it was a really pivotal time in my life. I think it's a great way to just have a broader perspective on the world, on your community, on education. And sometimes I joke like everyone should be a teacher for a year, because it just truly is the hardest job I will ever do times infinity. And I think
see that.
Yes, it was so hard, like mentally, physically, emotionally. It is such a hard job. And I think that is just such a valuable experience. Like I will look at my kids' teachers differently from now on because of that experience. And I also think it helped me put in perspective, like, is this really that big of a deal, Hannah? Like every day I'm like, is this really that big of a deal? Like, you've seen kids that are struggling with all kinds of things in and out of the classroom. And is this like, you're going to be fine,
So people that don't know Teach for America, it's a nonprofit, and share their mission and what they do.
Yeah, so they are, basically their belief is that every kid deserves a quality education, no matter what their background is, income level, skin color. Everyone deserves, that's a right to have a quality public education, not a privilege. And so everything that they do is kind of centered around that mission. So they're in now, they're all over the country now. I don't even know how many cities, probably over 100 cities Teach for America is in, including Tulsa. And they essentially place college graduates in classrooms around the country to teach. And so basically kind of filling that gap. There's a huge teacher shortage in the country, as I'm sure you know, and especially in the state of Oklahoma. Right. And so it's just a really great opportunity to get kids who, maybe wouldn't have necessarily gone to the classroom, who majored in all kinds of different things, to really go into the classroom. And a lot of people end up staying in the classroom or staying in education. Most of my friends from Teach for America are still in education. So it's really changes the trajectory of most people's careers, which is really cool.
We need those people.
Exactly. So it's a great, I still it's such highly speak of Teach for America and highly recommend it for people if it's something that they think that, that would be really interesting to do.
So you go from education to becoming an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And that's tough. Most people, that's hard to make that leap.
Yes.
Because you go from safety, we talked about the corporate America, or a safe job, to the regular paycheck, to I'm going to go try to make my own money, do my own thing. If it doesn't work out, it's just me.
Yeah.
No one's going to catch me when I fall. Right? So walk me through that thought process of making that transition.
Transition. Yeah. So I spent 2 years in the classroom. I knew it wasn't what I necessarily wanted to do forever. And like I said, it's a hard job. And I knew that honestly, like if I have a family one day, like that's going to be really hard to balance. And so I actually ended up working for Teach for America for the nonprofit side for a few years after I was even in the classroom. And I actually worked in recruitment and talent acquisition, which has been actually a very great experience for what I do now, because we'll talk about this later, but the Scout Guide, really a lot of my job is sales. And so now that, which is very similar to recruitment. So I think honestly, just like the bottom line there is that there's so many transferable skills, even in the classroom. You're the leader of your own classroom. You have to write your lesson plans every day. You have to manage your classroom. You have to problem solve all day long. And those are all transferable skills, no matter what I would have done after. And then same with recruitment. Like there were so many transferable skills to owning a business now and having a very sales oriented position in my business. So I think you just kind of look back and you're like, no matter what, like there's so many transferable skills. And I always say that to younger people. I'm like, you might think like, you will never envision the rest of your career. Like you're going to jump around and you're going to be like, this might seem random, but there's going to be so many things that you learn from each job that carries on to the next. I mean, I'm sure you feel that way. It's definitely. Like you never would have planned this, but it's like you definitely are carrying skills from each thing. So all that to say, and we'll probably get into the Scout Guide a little bit more, but I kind of stumbled upon the Scout Guide. I actually saw it in Kansas City, where I'm from, and then I saw it in Dallas, and then Oklahoma City had just launched, and we had recently moved to back to Tulsa, because I had been in Dallas and moved back to Tulsa, and I was like, this is the most beautiful publication I've ever seen.
Gorgeous.
And so
I'm like,
you're so sweet.
All of it is so pretty.
And so, I just saw it and I was like, this is beautiful. And I was still working for Teach for America at the time. And I reached out to the Scout Guide headquarters and said, you need to come to Tulsa. I had no intention of doing it. I was just like, you need to, didn't even know how it worked. I was like, you need to come to Tulsa. You need to open one in Tulsa. Tulsa needs one of these. Like, we have so many great small businesses. This is a perfect place for it. Like, how do we not have this? And they responded and they were like, well, we're actually interviewing people right now to be the editor there. And I was like, okay. And they were like, do you have any interest? And I was like, yes. And so I came home and my sweet husband, I was like, I have this crazy idea, which unfortunately he's heard a lot. And he's like, okay. And I like tell him all about it. He's like, that sounds amazing. Like, you should totally do it. And so I interviewed, I got the position or they offered me the position. It's a franchise. So I purchased the franchise and I kept actually doing my Teach for America job for another 2 years. Okay. So I actually was doing both at first. I was like, I don't know if this is going to take off. I don't know if this is going to, go anywhere.
Right. And this is pre-kids.
And this is pre-kids. So you had time. 100%. Yes. I could never do that now. So yes, pre-kids. I was like, my husband was in grad school and working. I'm like, oh, I got time. Like, I'll do both until I can't anymore. And so I did both for a couple of years. And both of my parents were entrepreneurs, and I definitely, even though I might have come from an untraditional background into this, I knew like the importance of small businesses. I knew like the power of small businesses. Tulsa is also an incredibly unique community in that we really support our small businesses and care about small businesses. And so I knew that the Scout Guide would be like the perfect fit in Tulsa from the start. So that's kind of, I kind of stumbled upon it, I guess, is the answer to that. And then one thing kind of led to another. And as it grew, then I was able to do it full time. And like you said, we'll get into this, but then I had a family. So it was just, everything kind of evolves as you.
So take me back to the time when you very first signed on. Yeah. Right? You're going to be a franchisee for the first time, which means you're a business owner.
Yes, 100%.
Right?
Yes.
So what was maybe the most challenging thing for you in the beginning that maybe you didn't think was going to come about? Share that with us.
Gosh, in the beginning, everything was kind of a challenge because it was all so new. I think for me, like I mentioned before, it's a very sales heavy job. So if people aren't familiar with the Scout Guide, we produce a publication that features small businesses and local businesses in Tulsa, all different kinds of businesses, but they are all either based in Tulsa or in Tulsa. And so really you are going out there and you're selling the guide to people. You're telling them why they need to be a part of the publication, why they need to be a part of the Scout Guide Network. And in the beginning, it didn't exist here. So a lot of people didn't know about it. So I'm, literally just telling them like, so I'm going to come out with this random publication and you maybe have never heard of it, but it's going to be great, and people are like, okay. And yes, you are very much cold calling. And it was, in the beginning, I was literally just going into businesses and saying, hi, my name's Hannah and this is the Scout Guide. And, that the benefit of having a franchise is I did have copies of guides from other cities and there was this national network. So it wasn't like I was just starting something, randomly out of my basement. Right. I did have kind of this network around me, but it's still challenging because you're new to this place. And if people haven't heard of you, they're like, okay, you're new on the scene. And I'm not from Tulsa. So it's not like I had this deep network in Tulsa. Right. I mean, I was still very new. We moved here in 2016 and I started this in 2017. And it's funny, like a funny story. I remember, and I would literally sit in my car and like work myself up. I would literally listen to Eminem, which is what I listened to when I was a teacher on my way to school. I'm like, okay, I got this.
This. Like 8 Mile.
Yes, it was my own 8 Mile. And so I was like, okay, I got this. And I remember sitting one of my first sales was the Lolly Garden, which has been in the guide now for 7 years, which is so cool. And I literally sat in the parking lot and I like amped myself up and I walked in and I met Charla, who's the owner, who had actually also just purchased the Lolly Garden at the time. We both started about the same time. And I'm like, hi, my name's Hannah. And the rest is history. And that was one of my first sales. And like I said, she's been in the Scout Guide for 7 years now. And I think that was like a pivotal sale for me because I was like, okay, I literally just like walked in there, confident, talked about the Scout Guide, shared about this really cool publication that I am so excited about. And, this business that's been in Tulsa and is growing in Tulsa and is really, important in Tulsa is going to like take a chance on me. And I think there, I'm sure you remember those people kind of early in your journey that like took a chance on you and you're like, I will forever be indebted to them. So the sales part was hard. Sales is hard. It's super hard. You cold call. It's scary. And like at the time, I was younger and I was much more immature and it's just like every no is like, it's just a shot to the heart. It's like every rejection and it's just setting yourself up for rejection after rejection after rejection. And you're doing it to yourself. You're like, I can't take another no. Yeah. And obviously many years later now, it's like every no is easy now because I'm like, it's not the right fit. There's a million other great things out there and this isn't the right fit for them and that's okay. And now
there's a million other people that will say yes.
Yes. And it's totally fine now. But in the beginning, it's like every no, it's like so heartbreaking and it just like over and over. So to answer your question, like, yes, the sales was really tough. And until I did it, I didn't even realize how much of a sales job it really was. Because if you don't sell spreads and you don't get people in the guide, you don't have a magazine. So it's like as many cool photo shoot ideas as you have and as many social media posts as you have, if you don't have members, you are nothing. So I think that was definitely the most challenging part.
I would say, I always tell, yes, entrepreneurs, if you can sell, you will be successful.
100%.
Right? You have to deliver on your product, yes. 100%. But if you can sell, you're going to be successful. You'll never be broke.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because you've got to have that coming in order to get the business going.
Yes. And I think it's funny, like, salesmen or saleswomen, that gets like a really bad rep, right? You think of like a snake oil salesman, like a car salesman, like you get this really negative connotation to the word. But what I have learned over the years and a lot of great people have told me is like, if you're selling something that you really believe in and are passionate about, you're sharing with people this great opportunity. Like I 1,000% believe in the Scout Guide. I believe in what it will do for your business. So it's easy for me to talk about. It's something that I want to like share with people. I want them to know about it and it doesn't feel like sales anymore. It just feels like I'm having a conversation about something that I love and that I think that like you have to be a part of it. You know, I feel like that every conversation. So I'm sure you feel that way too. It doesn't feel like you're like just trying to sell something.
Right. That's the key. I always say selling is serving.
Yes.
If you're 100%. Serving your client on the other end, you're helping their business be better. You're getting the brand awareness out there. 100%. You should be excited to tell them about it.
100%.
And maybe the opportunity isn't good right then.
Right.
But it will be in the future. Or you know what? There's 10 other people that it's a good opportunity for right then.
Definitely. And I'm sure you've had people who they said no at first and then they come back a couple years later. And I've even had people who set out a year and then they come back again the next year. And, you know, and that's fine. Like the timing has to be right for everyone. Yes. And so, yeah, I think it's like always keeping that door open. I always say like I never want to burn a bridge. Like as long as I never burn a bridge, it's fine. If they never are a part of the Scout Guide again, if they felt like they had a good experience, either if they were in it or if they had a good conversation with me and walked away with a positive feeling, that's all that I care about. Like, you know, that's fine. And you never know what's going to happen in the future or who you're going to cross paths with again in the future.
And Tulsa's very small.
It is very small.
So if everyone knows everyone knows everyone. Yes. So if somebody says, hey, they did a great job for me. I mean, I have clients that aren't our clients anymore that refer other clients.
Yes.
They did a great job for us at the time. You know, we ended up taking our marketing in-house, so we're not using them anymore or something like that.
Because there's a million reasons why people leave or don't do something. It's not, it's not personal. Most of the time it's not. It's business, you know? And so I do agree with you 100%. I think you have to always remember that down the line, you know, someone could still refer you or come back. And it's really cool when that happens. It is very cool. Right?
Well, I was honored to be a part of your color party.
Yes. Oh, so thank you for coming. That was so fun. Yes.
And I will say, I'm like a very observer of people because, you know, I do a lot of coaching. And I knew instantly when you walked in and your personality and the way you made your clients feel, they all think they're your friend, which I mean, they are your friend.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
But if you can make your client on the other end feel like they are part of your family, your friends, that you actually care about them and their business, that goes a really long way.
It does.
And I saw that immediately with you.
Sweet. I appreciate
just
that.
the way you worked the room, talked to people. And I think not only just it's a publication, yes, but I really think it's a community.
It's a community, 100%.
So share that with me.
Yes, and that's something that I really didn't realize as much, or maybe I like undervalued when I first started the Scout Guide. I'm like, we're going to have events. They're going to get, you know, be a part of this greater network, but I didn't realize how important that was going to be. And I do believe that there's a lot of people in the Scout Guide who continue to do it to stay part of that network, even above the beautiful publication and the social media and all the things. Like I truly think that network has become invaluable for people. And, you know, at the core of it, you're a small business owner. It's very isolating. I think a lot of small business owners feel like they're on an island and sometimes that island is sinking and they don't have really this community around them. And, you know, I kind of equate it to that corporate world. Like if my husband has a problem in his job or is faced with a challenge, he can walk down the hall and talk to someone who's in his same position or a similar position and problem solve with them. When you're a small business owner, it's usually just you in that store, in that office, in your home. Yeah. And when you have a challenge, you feel very alone. And so I think for people to feel like they have this broader network of other small business owners that are going through the same day-to-day challenges is truly priceless. Like I think that, and I've seen the relationships come out of the Scout Guide, which to me is like one of my most proud moments of the Scout Guide, is that to see all these people who now work together and talk and have friendships and, you know, myself included. Like there's so many people now that I feel like I can call for advice or, you know, lean on. And that is something that I think is sometimes hard to find as an entrepreneur. Like
it is.
There's organizations and there's great things out there, but it is hard to find, I think, that out there, and that the Scout Guide really has provided that for a lot of people.
Well, you're the connection.
Well,
right? It's you connecting all these people together, which is key. Because I bet every Scout Guide across the country is not doing what you're doing.
Well, I don't know
it really is your personality.
Nice. That's very nice.
Which is great. Okay, so as far as if someone wants to get involved in the Scout Guide, I know this past issue is already like at production. It's going, so it's too late for that. But what if a business wanted to be a part of it? What do they need to do?
Yeah, so they can just reach out to us. They can reach out to us on our social media, on our website. They can email us, and just we can totally send more information. I usually have a conversation with everybody, and you know, I want it to be a good fit for each business and vice versa. So it's really like I want it to be beneficial for the business owner. I want it to be obviously beneficial for the Scout Guide. So usually just have a conversation and share more information. So definitely just reaching out, and we are always, you know, people are always joining the Scout Guide because we have events and things all year long. We do social media all year long. So really there's never a bad time. You can always reach out and, you know, be a part of the next guide.
Okay, good. Yeah. I love that. Okay, so let's talk about mentorship.
Yes.
Because I think that's such an important part. Now, you also said that you had two parents that were entrepreneurs.
Yes.
So was there a mentor or somebody that kind of helped you along the way that you were like, okay, I can do this?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think like my mom comes to mind first off. My mom is an attorney, but she had her own practice, and she did that because she wanted to be a mom, and she also wanted to work. And, back when my mom was young, my mom had me later in life, and like when she was younger, there weren't people doing like what you're doing and what I'm doing for the most part. You either worked a 9-to-5 or you were a stay-at-home mom, and that was kind of the only options. And my mom was like, I want to do both, and I want to create a situation where I have that option. And so she had her own practice. She worked when we were at school. She was at pickup every day, and I think she really paved, that wasn't common at the time.
No.
And I think she really paved that way. And so I grew up thinking like I can make whatever life I want. And if I want to stay home, great. If I want to work in the corporate world, great. But if I want to be somewhere in between, I can create that for myself. And so I definitely think when I was starting to do the Scout Guide, and obviously she was my biggest cheerleader, and like, absolutely, you can do it. But I think I definitely grew up with a mom like you are that kind of showed me there's options, and this is your life. You can make it what you want. So I think that, she definitely is like the number one, my whole life. But now there's so many, all the business owners in my guide, and which is predominantly women business owners, actually. They're all, I look up to everyone now. There's so many people doing amazing things. And I think, again, that's kind of goes back to the importance of that community. But now I feel like I have 100 mentors, but
that's amazing.
But definitely my mom is the go-to in my mind. So
I love that.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk kids.
Yes.
Because the fact that you've been so successful with this magazine, launched it in Tulsa, made a huge difference. You have 3 kids under the age of 4.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how do you balance, really?
Yeah, that's a great question. And balance, is a funny word. I'm like, you survive is really what it is. I think my number one thing is like, you have to let some things go. Like you have to realize what's important to you. And, my car is a mess. I get takeout half the time. It's not like I'm doing everything all the time.
Right.
I'm not. And I'm the first to admit that. Like, I think you have to decide like what's important to you. And I work, I have 3 kids. I want to be present with them and spend time with them. And sometimes that means like your house isn't clean and the dinner isn't cooked,
Right.
So
but they don't care.
They never care. Yeah. It's always the pressure we put on ourselves, right? It's not even anyone else. It's yourself.
Yes.
That's your worst enemy.
Yes.
So I definitely think balance is a funny word. But I definitely, I love what I do, and I have 2 girls, and I think it was like Jenna Bush Hager. I heard her on a podcast, and she said, when I go to work, I don't say I have to go to work. I say I get to go to work. And that always stuck with me, because it's like, I want them to know that I get to do this really awesome thing that I created, and that I have created a life where I can do this and be their mom, and that I'm not like, oh, I have to go and I have to leave you and I have to go to this job. It's that I get this great opportunity, just like I want you to have really great opportunities that you're as excited about as I am. And so that's one thing that even from like a young age, I've really tried to say, like, I get to go to this photo shoot today, and you get to hang out with Mimi, or you get to hang out with this fun babysitter. So I think that's really important to me, for sure. And balance, I think it's just, you're not going to do everything all the time. I think someone said once, like, you can do it all, just not all at once. Right. So it's realizing like, this is a season of my life where I have really little kids, and you're kind of just surviving day to day. You're like, okay, they're dressed. Yeah. They're in the car. Okay, we're good. Eating. Yes. Yeah. We've had breakfast and we're dressed. Great. We're killing it, and you just kind of have to realize what's important and not let the little things get to you.
Because you blink and they grow up.
Already it goes so fast,
do,
and 100%. And so I definitely think it's, you just have to, be gracious with yourself. Because like I said, we're the hardest on ourselves of anyone.
Definitely.
So, I think that's, my husband's not hard on himself like that. It's me. So it's like, I need to just, it'll be fine.
So let's talk about leadership, because I know you said, you were a leader in the Pi Phi House early on, and then you've done Leadership Tulsa.
Yes.
You've also done some stuff with Junior League.
Yes.
So what is that leadership, those roles, what importance do you think that has had on like the success of the Scout Guide?
Yeah, well, I think leadership development is always important. I mean, I think from obviously you go through things in high school. I went through, things in college and being a Pi Phi, and then I teach for America. That does a lot of great leadership development. So I was always getting these great development opportunities and really growing myself as a person and a leader. And then, when you're an adult, you kind of have to seek those opportunities out a little bit more. They don't always, depending on your job, they might not present themselves. And so those were just opportunities where I was really able to like continue to build myself as a leader and as a person. And I also think just the community, like you said, like that's always such an important, leadership. Tulsa is a great community. The Junior League is a great community. And just finding communities where you can really, be a part of it, not only for yourself, but also like to give back and do something, worthwhile with your time and your skills. And I think there's so many great organizations like those out there that you really have to kind of, seek out good opportunities to continue to grow. And
networking.
Yes.
I mean, that's another 100%. Networking opportunity. You're giving back and you're also networking at the same time because it's other women that work and that are doing
amazing things in the community. And it's just a really cool opportunity to meet people that you probably wouldn't necessarily cross paths with.
Right.
I have friends that are attorneys and dentists and, accountants. And I'm like, I would never probably cross paths with them in my job. And so it's just a really cool opportunity to meet people that are doing totally different things. And
So if we look at 5 years down the road, and I know that's probably hard to think because you're like day to day just trying to get out the door with the kids.
Yes.
But if kids are in school, right? What are you doing? With your extra time? I mean, Scout Guide is still going. What do you see maybe in the future?
I mean, who knows? Like I said, I mean, I'm kind of a dreamer, so there's always ideas that I have or other business ideas. I mean, I definitely don't think this will be my last business that I own. And, I'm in a cool spot with the Scout Guide because I kind of have this bird's eye view of Tulsa. And I'm always like, we need this. We don't have this.
That's
and
great point.
I also get to see other guides. So I'll look through other city guides and be like, that is such a great idea. We need one of those. And so I do think there's like always these ideas in my head of, other small businesses or other things in Tulsa. So, I mean, I definitely think down the road, I would love to, start another business or, see what ideas I come up with. But I definitely think, entrepreneurship is kind of addicting.
It is.
It's like you kind of have this, it's definitely a high and low situation. But when you have those highs, it's just like that. You can't beat that feeling, that adrenaline and that rush. And I think then once you kind of start a business, you're like, what other things are there out there? And just solving problems. Like what are things that are missing in the community? What are things that we need? And kind of seeking out those, opportunities. And so I think I could definitely see myself, doing something else down the line and continuing to grow the Scout Guide. I, hope the network continues to grow, and I hope, we continue to, reach small businesses and reach readers. And so, I think hopefully there's a long life left for the Scout Guide Tulsa.
Definitely. Well, I can see you doing anything you put your mind to.
Well, you're sweet.
You'll be great at it.
We'll see.
You have a unique ability for like the finance side, the management side, running the business, and the sales, the marketing. I mean, you've got both minds, and that's unique.
That's nice of you.
That really is. So I can see you just doing whatever.
Well, that's nice of you. We will see.
So what do people need to do to get a hold of you and all of that?
Yeah, well, you can follow us it's at TSG Tulsa.
Okay.
So we're on Instagram, Facebook. You can look up our website, thescoutguide.com, and all the cities are there. And you can click on Tulsa. You can see all the other great cities. And so, follow us, follow along what we're doing. But you can always email, reach out. I love to hear from people, whether it's a business owner or just a fan of the Scout Guide. It's always great to get, an email saying how much they loved getting the Scout Guide in their mail and that it's, helped them find new businesses in Tulsa. So
definitely.
Anything is great communication for me.
Okay, final question.
Yes.
You've got the woman out there that is thinking, they want to start something, they want to maybe become an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
What is your number one piece of advice for them?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think my number one piece of advice is something my mom always told me is like, stay in your lane. Mm-hmm. Stay focused on what you're doing, like eye on the prize, and don't worry about what everyone else is doing. Because I think, there's kind of twofold in that. You can worry about what everyone else is doing and feel like, I'm too slow or I'm behind or I'm not, where other people should be. And then there's also the other piece of like just worrying about the competition, worrying about other people that are out there doing what you're doing and almost spending so much time worrying about that you're not just worrying about making your business the best it can be. So I think that's just my advice is like, follow your heart, follow your mind, and like, kind of just keep your head looking forward. Don't worry about what everyone else is doing. There'll always be people doing what you're doing.
Right.
And that's
and
great.
2 steps ahead. There's
totally.
always going to be somebody 2 steps ahead.
Behind, next to you. And that's great. So I definitely think that is something that is important for all entrepreneurs. And when I see entrepreneurs that are doing that, they're always, ahead of the people that are kind of just so worried about what other people are doing. And so I think that is, and it's hard, especially with social media.
It is hard.
It's hard to not be like comparing yourself or being like, oh, I don't want, don't go to them or whatever. But I think the more like community we have and the more that you support other businesses and other people, like the more you're going to get ahead. So just do your thing, do it well, and don't worry about everybody else.
That is such great advice. I love that from personal life
everything, yes.
to, comparing and moving on. And you get in a little rabbit hole and starting to look what everyone else is doing, that then you forgot your goals.
Yes, 100%.
And you're not, moving forward that way.
Yes,
so
I agree completely.
I love that.
Yes.
Well, Hannah, you've been so much fun to talk to.
Thank you. It went so fast.
I know. I love the Scout Guide. I love everything you guys are all about.
Thank
the
you.
whole
I really
community aspect. That. And I think that's probably the most the takeaway that I have. It's not just a product, because a product, a magazine, anyone can do a pretty magazine.
100%.
It's the community behind it and how you've really connected these people and the network. That's your X factor. That's what makes you, really great. And I'm honored to have you on today.
Thank you. I really do appreciate that. And it means a lot to me. So I appreciate your kind words. And thank you for having me. This has been so much fun. And you're such an inspiration. So thank you for having so many great people on your podcast.
Well, thank you. See you next time on the Do It My Way podcast. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Do It My Way podcast. If you like this episode, please remember to share with your friends and make sure to let me know who you'd like me to interview next. We'll see you next time.